Hey everybody, the Warp Chatter podcast is once again asking for guests to add to the guest book. In 2021, we had about 43 different guests, and the podcast was listened to in over 54 countries, which was a stellar year. We look to continue that again this year in 2022. It doesn't matter if you've been on the show before. If you've never been on the show, if you listen, you'd like to talk about Horus Heresy Legions or Warhammer 40,000, you've got an enjoyment for the game, and you can speak English as decently as possible, then that's probably all the factors that you need in terms of participating in the podcast. We'd like to have you on the show. Always enjoy talking to all the different players in our community and hopefully continue to broaden, because we've had 43 guests. We definitely have had way more than 43 players in the game. Thousands, not hundreds of thousands out there. So wherever you are across the globe, if that's something that you'd like to do, PM me on the Discord or Reddit, Facebook, reach out and get in touch. I'll get you on the schedule and we can expand our guest list even more. So with that being said, I'm going to let you guys get to the show.
Death by noise.
Through dark days, space, time.
Yes, I like it.
This is Warp Chatter!
Sweet mother of the abyss!
There's a great deal of work to do.
Alright, we are back at the Warp Chatter podcast. Welcome, everybody, once again. This is the Warp Chatter podcast, the podcast dedicated to talking about the Horus Heresy Legions digital card game, Horus Heresy lore, Warhammer 40,000, everything that kind of encapsulates. This is a podcast by players for players. And I'm your host, Scuff D. With me today, we've got a couple players join us, a couple players new to the podcast. First off, with me as always is the Crab co-host Axel Manning.
Howdy, howdy, ho.
And then joining us today, we've got Syndicalopithecus.
Hey, what's up?
Hola. And then from the Reddit community, we've got HighMarshalSigismund.
Oh, that's
cool.
That's who you are. That's cool.
Yeah.
I've seen your stuff before.
Yeah, I I try to be somewhat active inside the Reddit community, but my player name is Rassiter, and Reddit handle is HighMarshalSigismund, and that certainly marks me out as a Imperial Fist / Black Templars fan.
That's the way to be. I mean,
really is. Ave Imperator.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in good company here, except me, because I'm a Chaos fan, but, you know.
Nothing wrong with that.
Everybody's got their fan.
Biggest one.
Absolutely.
Total Chad.
If only he would get some love in game to represent just a smidge more. That's all I'm asking.
Well, I mean, right now you guys got turrets, which...
That's not what I want. I mean, I know people ask for that, but that's not what I asked for.
I didn't want Cambid Diaz, I wanted Fafnir Ron.
Yeah. If we're talking about warlords that we really want, please bring me Hathor Matt, because he is literally the only warlord I've ever been able to go 12 wins with.
Oh.
I don't remember who he is.
He was a biomancer, 4,000 Suns.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I remember now.
Yeah, long ago. Dating myself on the Legions game.
He had the ability to just basically heal his stuff with Psyker energy, which was really nice. And
it was fun.
Very interestingly, I mean, he is kind of... There's several key characters in the rubric of Armand, but he's kind of central to that whole plot and how that actually ends up working out.
Not very well, spoiler alert.
Yeah. But we are digressing, talking about other legions besides what we're going to be talking about today. Legions as a whole is the card game, but the topic of discussion that we're going to get to, we're going to be doing the Faction Spotlight series on the Death Guard. Long overdue. And when I say long overdue, I mean I've had it on the calendar to do for like 4 weeks, and then we kept getting balance patches with all the new content, which definitely worth discussion, especially some of the biggest stuff that was coming out there. So we just kept pushing back Death Guard week after week after week, but we're finally here. We're finally getting ready to talk about it. But before we get to the Death Guard, Want to do player introductions, give you guys a chance to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself, how you got involved into the card game. So we'll start with you, Syndical.
Yeah. My in-game name is Jerick Driok. I don't know, Driok Jugasvili. I am really infamous in World Chat. I got muted recently, to be honest, for being such a Kinshaw hater.
You know what happened?
My hate for Kinshaw is just absolutely stunning. And then I've been playing Horse Heresy Legions for like 2 years. I started pandemic during the start of the pandemic, maybe July or August of 2021 or 2020. I have not really remembered much, but because I've been interested in Thousand Suns and Space Wolves, that gave me the way to find some games. So I searched in Google Play Store for some games, and I saw Horse Heresy Legions, and from there I played.
Okay, so that's interesting as far as jumping in with those two factions. I mean, obviously storied rivalry, but when you started the game, were there other factions that you were aware of, or were you just looking to just play the Space Wolves or the Thousand Suns?
Actually, I've been a fan of Warhammer 40k for like 4 years.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I've been interested in Thousand Suns and Space Wolves because of the boarding of Prospero event, and I think I want to play Magnus, to be honest. And I started Horse Heresy Legion. I wanted to play Magnus.
He's fun nowadays, especially with the mission.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool as hell. And Limonera's cool as hell too, but Magnus is my number one, bruh. Magnus did nothing wrong.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. I think he might have done some wrong.
He meant well.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
The road to the golden
He's
throne.
iffy, but
he means well, I guess.
He was just trying to, warn his dad about his brother's betrayal and just have to break everything. So
if I warn my dad about something, but I burn his house down in the process, am I really doing good?
Shake the hornet's nest, if you might will, and actually destroy the palace as a result.
Yeah, just a little fuck up, just a tiny one.
No big deal.
The best part about that whole thing was he got there, and then the Emperor's like, "Yeah, I know." It's like it was like you didn't even I got that text. Like,
thanks, Magnus.
Right, a little bit of a fucking walkie, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. But could have waited a bit longer to warn him, and everyone would have been fine. It's in Magnus's nature to fuck up tremendously for entertainment purposes.
True.
No, and now it's just a meme. That's just the way it is. I mean, I would think honestly, there's if we're just looking at, just in Horse Heresy, because I think 40k's definitely got a lot of memes too. But if you look at Horse Heresy, I think every faction, every legion has got some meme about it in one way or the other, whether it is character specific or just like legion specific. I mean, nobody escapes the wrath of the internet.
Oh yeah, you can make fun of every legion or character for something. Fuck, Lionel Johnson slapped a man's head off for disagreeing with him.
He's a fucking idiot. Let's be real. Lion, a fucking idiot.
Plenty of stuff about the Dark Angels for sure. Dark Angels and Ultramarines. I would probably say, like, you could maybe say the Sons of Horus don't have as much, but they really do if you're looking at Abaddon and Horus having his daddy issues. And I think every trait of Primarch with daddy issues pretty much kind of sums it up.
Yeah, it's accurate. It's so accurate.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, HighMarshalSigismund, tell us about yourself.
I never played tabletop, but I've been a fan of Warhammer 40,000 since the very first Dawn of War and Winter Assault. For me, it was probably just StarCraft on crack, because all of a sudden it wasn't about turtling in and acquiring resources. You actually had to get out across the map and capture points. all of the army painters had the different base legions, but I didn't really know anything about them. And then I started playing. I played Space Marine. I mean, if it's a 40K game per computer, I've probably tried it and been disappointed because there's not a lot out there that can really, stand up to the test of time, or it's all this shovelware from Games Workshop because they'll license anything. No hate to Games Workshop. You got to make your buck, but damn it, just give us something decent besides, obviously, Legions. I started playing Horus Heresy Legions probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I had a friend at work who was a 30K nerd who was also reading the Siege of Terra. Well, at the time, it was just the Horus Heresy. And I'd been playing Freeblade for a while on my iPad, but that was kind of pay to win and getting kind of grindy. And I've never been a big fan of rail shooters. So I picked up Legions on a whim, on a graveyard shift. And I've been playing ever since. Whenever they would tease new legions, I was always the first one in my lodge to start spamming Imperial Fists because I was just really excited. And having watched Hell's Reach, I, of course, went into a massive deep dive into their lore. And thus, I was able to claim the HighMarshalSigismund username on Reddit. Surprisingly, that nobody else had taken it. So, big fan of the Fist, big fan of Sigismund, Dorn's Angry Boys, and kind of all things Warhammer. I'm actually wearing a beanie I got for Christmas from a friend that's got the Dark Angels symbol on it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I have a collection of 40K patches. My backpack has a Night Lord's First Claw patch that I sewed on there. I've got a hat with an Alpha Legion patch on it. So I like to try to find us 40K nerds in the wild and have that brief moment of connection. And so far, it's only happened once at a Sabaton show a few years ago. I had a beanie with the Inquisition symbol sewed onto it. And a fellow player was like, "Oh, hey, Inquisition." I'm like, "Yeah, but I play Black Templars." He's like, "Oh, Blood Angels." And it was kind of a cute, little moment of meeting somebody in the wild, but it doesn't happen very often. We're all very hidden and closeted. But yeah,
you're gonna have the weirdest interactions. Like I remember before I graduated, I was in class and I casually said "blood for the Blood Guard" as a joke to my buddy, and I heard someone behind me go "Skulls for the Skull Throne." Never talked to that person afterwards, but that was a moment I'll never forget.
Exactly, those are the things you just need to hold on to. My friend at work got me into this game. Quite frequently, we work opposite shifts now, but whenever I see him, it's usually either Blood for the Blood God or Death to the False Emperor.
Yeah, the normal stuff.
The things you say to your friends. Yeah, the standard greetings.
Yeah, without context, you look like a lunatic. With context, you look like a lunatic.
Pretty much, yeah. You get some looks, but you don't really care.
You do it anyways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think outside of like the game stores, like the favored terrain of the 40K nerd, like the sightings of the wild or the interaction of the wild just kind of very rare. I had one time I still have this shirt. It's like an old 2003 Games Day shirt, which was like for the Eye of Terror campaign, and it's really faded and worn and tattered. It was just kind of like my workaround shirt, and I had that. I was at the store, and somebody saw that, and they're like, "Oh, 40K! Wow, I have Terror." I remember, I was like, "Yeah, it's like," and we started talking
awesome.
just briefly, and the thing, and then somewhere along the way, I was like, "Oh yeah, they're bringing back the Primarchs." This is like right before they were kicking off Dark Millennium. And he's like, "What?" Just ruined his day or shocked his, it's like, so that was pretty cool.
Scuff, you rocking people's world in the wild for no reason except to help them.
That's it.
Scuff just walking around dropping lore bombs on people.
That's right.
His day probably was better, Scuff. Had you
scaring the hosts away.
Scuff in the wild, ruining men's dreams.
I don't know. For a while there, I felt like there was too many Chaos Primarchs and that the Imperium was due a win. I mean, if they're the poster boy of the 40K, at the very least they could give the Imperium some kind of a win.
Well, the way I'm seeing it is Logar is about to come back any moment now.
Nah, I think Lion's gonna come back.
Oh yeah, Lion's definitely coming back.
Lion's doing the Sleeping Beauty thing underneath the rock.
Yeah, Logar has reunited the entire Wordbearer Legion, which is a problem for the Loyalists. And that is
That's an
a big
issue.
group of dudes. And the only reason they haven't
It's
teamed
about to
up
go
against
down.
they haven't teamed up against the Loyalists is because they were under a civil war. But now that the civil war's over,
Mhm.
this is
But
an
you got to
issue.
wonder how that's going to play into all the other Chaos Undivided factions out there, Death Guard and whatnot. You know, Mortarian's still kind of smarting from his campaign there in the Ultramar system, where it's like spoilers for Dark Imperium. You know, spoilers for Dark Imperium, but the little girl like manifesting the power of the Emperor and like changing the landscape to purity from the corruption, and then striking Mortarian relatively down. It's just, Gilliman's been asleep for 10,000 years, and he's finally able to come back, and he's like, why did you bring me back? This isn't fun anymore.
Gilliman's not having a good time. Gilliman wants to go home.
Gillen was...
He's only brought back for a civil war in the Imperium, to be honest. With Lion coming back and the King in Yellow coming back, I think there's another 3-way civil war in the Imperium gonna happen the next 5 to 10 years.
I really hope not. I really hope
I see a civil war, because if the King in Yellow's back and he's an enemy, that's an issue. Because spoilers for the people at home, the King of Yellow may or may not be Big Valdor. And
really?
Yeah.
So, okay, just as an aside, do Custodians have unlimited lifespan?
Yes.
Okay, so that is something that... Okay, I didn't know that.
They can grow old, but they can live... Like, the ones who grow a bit older and they don't feel as strong anymore, they become spies for the Custodians. But they still are employed.
They're still employed.
Yeah, they still have a job.
No pensions
they're
for
still getting
for the
benefits.
Custodians.
Yeah.
They usually make themselves unemployed. They usually go, guys, we've slowed down a bit. Dude, you went 0.1 second slower. Yeah, but I gotta retire.
Yep, that's it,
This is how it works.
I think the biggest thing for me, like when I was reading the old lore, all the traded Primarchs that were alive, and which was most of them, there was basically Kurz and Horus weren't. All were in the Eye of Terror, had been banished or had been beaten like 1,000 years before, so they were due for a return. And as far as the Loyalists went, Gilliman was in stasis, and then everybody else was either dead or who knows what happened to those guys. And as time has gone on,
warp.
Yeah, as time has gone on, we've kind of still, for the most part, had those questions unanswered. Like we know Russ just wandered off apparently with Valdor into the warp at some point. Jagatai Khan was chasing some Dark Eldar. Maybe he's held prisoner in Kimura. Maybe he's not. Johnson went from being, dead to being in a rest.
Coma.
Then he went not even from coma. He's just he's just snoozing now. It's not even like he's mortally wounded.
Sleeping Beauty underneath the rock.
And then, so gradually things have shifted. And I think from a game's perspective, obviously, Primarchs and main characters, that's going to sell. That's going to sell models. That's going to sell armies. And it's a lot of longtime fans who want their character to get shine. I think, for the most part, from what I've seen, the Gilliman model and the Magnus model and the Mortarian model have done really well. So I would not...
Also beautiful models.
Yeah, they are. They're all good, yeah. And I would not be surprised for them to try to do that with as many as they can, although I do hope that they keep the dead ones dead. And when I say dead ones dead, I mean we know that Dorn isn't dead. I'm just going to clarify that. I'm pretty sure he's MIA at this point. He went from being dead to MIA, so they can work him back in. But Sanguinius and Kurz and Horus, I think they should, and Ferris.
Well, that's the problem with Kurz. They kind of already wrote Kurz is not dead.
What?
Wait, he's in a town.
The Vindicator shot him in the head.
No, she did, but then his soul got put into a crown that you could use to bring him back.
Crown.
Oh, we're doing the Eldar Soul Gem thing. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, he got soul gemmed a while ago. Yeah,
I don't know.
Corny as hell, to be honest.
Yeah, but I
don't want Curse to come back.
No,
I'd like to come. If he came back, I'd love to have him as an ally to the Imperium after being dead for 10,000 years and being like, "Yeah, that kind of sucked."
If anything, he's going to come back and just be a force for neither side.
Just wreaking. He's just criminal Batman.
Yeah, criminal Batman's going to burn the world down.
Well,
No
it'd
one
be
can really
interesting
stop
because, like, he had the foresight, right? He's like, this. I see what's going to happen in 10,000 years. So, if would he still have his foresight when he got when they bring him back? He's like, okay, well, now that we're here, I can tell you what happens in 10,000 more years. Or will he not have it at all? And he'll be like, well, I don't know what to do now that we're here. I didn't want to get to this point, but we got to this point, and I guess I'll pick a side. I don't know. That's kind of interesting because that was the whole thing with his foresight. It's like, I foresee, the dark times for the Imperium, and this is what's going to happen. Okay, it all happened. Like, if he was still around, what would he see then?
Yeah, it's one of those characters where they went with it, and now we kind of just live with it.
Yeah.
But oh well.
Well, speaking of traitor Primarchs, Mortarion.
We did mention Mortarion by name, so we have something to go on.
We did, and I mean, personally,
let's not a segue.
We're still on topic.
Yeah. As far
Anyway,
as
Star Wars hasn't been mentioned yet.
As far as traitor
Maybe.
Primarchs go, Mortarion is probably, I want to say, one of my favorite, because I don't know if I've got a favorite traitor Primarch, but I do think that the traitor Primarchs mostly have really good backstories, and I think his was one of the better ones out there as far as his motivation throughout the entire.
You can see why he doesn't like
throughout the entire heresy and everything kind of leading up to him picking sides. And the Death Guard are relatively, I want to say undersung, because they definitely get a lot of love in game. And when I say game, I mean tabletop. But historically, that was their role. They're the foot soldiers, they're the infantry, they're kind of sludgy and boring, and now they do pus things.
Yeah.
So I mean, from a lore perspective, as well as from a game perspective, I don't know. That doesn't appeal to me. That aspect of them doesn't appeal to me.
I find them fascinating. They're World War I era tactics in a Space Marine form. They're dropping chem bombs. They're doing trench charges. I love these guys. They're so stupid. And then when they get all chaosy, they just become big meat walls that walk at you slowly until you die.
It's like the Romero zombie, but actually dangerous.
Yeah, and they're
with guns.
That's a scary part. And their 40k stuff they got with the new Ultramarine stuff. There's great parts in their book where they're taking Ultramarines and throwing them into cages and infecting them to turn them into Plague Marines.
That's awesome.
And there's another great part. Oh, sorry, Seth.
I was gonna say I like their pre-Nurgle aesthetic. With the kind of the not pearl, but kind of the gray white.
The
armor.
gray white that was one
gray, white, and green.
Yes, and the very barbarous. They kind of got the Krieg spike on the helms. That's, I mean, aesthetically,
I really appreciate
their tactics as chaos. I just,
oh, I love it.
Their pre-heresy symbol, I've always found the crown skull or the radiant skull
pretty clean.
Yeah, I always like that more than the Nurgle triad of skulls. More personally,
yeah,
true.
More beautiful things they did in the recent books is they played dead until a bunch of a couple Ultramarine squads walked over them, and they just stood up at once and started ripping them apart with their hands because they're essentially zombies. Just, I love Chaos Nurgle boys. They're great.
Love it.
I had a friend
they're fun.
Who played. Well, he played 3 armies, and depending on what codex was the more recent one was what he played. But I mean, he rotated between. He played Space Wolves, he played Tyranids, and then he played Death Guard. And I just remember the games of the Death Guard. It was just that. This is back when this is 3rd edition, where they didn't have fast units, and if they got a Rhino, they were considered a fast unit. It was they couldn't take bikes. It was it was kind of toughness 5, I guess. That was the big thing. That was the big upsell. And his lord was in Terminator armor that was tough to kill. I had less fun playing against his other 2 armies. Those were just standard games against his Death Guard, but against his Space Wolves and his Tyranids, I did not enjoy. So I don't know. For me, I mean, it always goes back to the way they play in game, and in Legions, I think they've gotten a lot better in game. I have peaks where I enjoy playing them, but I can only do it for so much, so many games before I'm okay, it's time to move on. But I do feel like they play a lot better than they did even a year ago. And a year ago, around this time, was the first big Death Guard patch that they got in a long while, where they kind of reworked Typhus, and they did Purity of Will, got that rework, which is still an awesome change.
I was not able to beat the Death Guard campaign despite trying so many times, and after a while, it just gets so frustrating when you get to the very, very final end.
Was it the Warhawk?
Yeah, he has that like 4/5 front line that just is at the start of the thing, and you just keep it stunned with Mortarion. But the RNG was just fucking me every single time, and I just could not pull the right cards that I needed. And after a while, the discouragement was just too real. And I'm like, you know what? It's just a card back, as cool as it is. You know, after a while, it's just not worth the frustration of getting knocked all the way back to the very start again and trying to work your way back up. But
that's the thing. That's the important thing. People need to know when to just give up when it's starting to bug you. Because it's good you did, or else it might have pissed you off way more than it's worth.
I've had my times where the game has frustrated me with the RNG. Or just when they introduced the night houses, I was heavily playing Erebus at the time, and that was absolutely just so frustrating. I was hovering in like 2700s at the time, and I just got knocked all the way back to Prospero, and it hurt so much because it felt so broken. But I will say that
makes you feel
absolutely,
yeah. I think I had experience fighting Kincha every 2 or 3 games, bro.
Oh yeah,
it's like
Kincha made me quit the game a little bit.
Man, hate that shit.
It was pretty rough, but I will say this: they've done a really good job of even just using cards and the game mechanics to really illustrate how the different legions fought. And coming from like a background of playing Magic the Gathering, every color plays differently. It's very true with what they've been able to accomplish with these different legions, and props to them for 18 legions, and each one of them does not feel the same when you're playing them. Exactly. And of course, it lends itself to you figuring out your own personal tactics. Even if like the Imperial Fists are my favorite legion, in the lore, but I will rock some Word Bearers super hard. I got Lorgar right now, and I'm working on. I got my ass handed to me by a guy playing Lorgar. I think I was telling Scuff this the other day, and it was frustrating, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I can do this. So I just watched my replay, and it's kind of building a deck around the same thing, and it's still a work in progress. But that turn 3, turn 4 transform Lorgar into his ascended form is just nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people run that type of
build.
build.
Concede if you're not really strategic.
Yeah.
I have no problem just quitting a game. I mean, hell, especially in the event where you're two losses down, no wins, and at this point, I just want to end it and try again. So I'll just start a game then quit. Like, here, have a free win, dude. It's all good.
The salt is real.
So
it happens.
And I think while each legion is unique in its mechanics, I think Death Guard has or needs to revamp some of their units, because there are a lot of Death Guard units that are not that used because the poison mechanic is not that good, let's be real.
Yeah, it's one of those mechanics where there needs to be more stuff they can do with poison, like even if poisoned weakened a troop or something.
Well, especially when you have Mortarion, where you have to
Callus.
What is it? To transform Mortarion, you have to get
10, it's not
something. I mean, unless you're using Poison Cloud, when you've got a board full of things, including your own units, it is one of the hardest Whispers of Chaos to pull off.
Well,
I feel
it is until recently they added Displaced Civilian to the game, so there is some builds you can run.
Yeah.
Displaced Civilian is a pretty nice tool for a couple builds. The thing with Mortarion's Whispers, my opinion, I mean, it is a lot of work, probably for the weakest Whisper. Like it's
easily. You never want to Whisper.
Like Stun on Demand is an amazing ability, and that's great. But like his ability is just like I heal and I'm poisonous and I he's unstoppable now. He didn't even used to be unstoppable. So he's got a little bit better, but compared to Lorgar, which I think is still the best Whisper in the game, Horus, which can deal 3 damage and stun, any of the Reckoning Warlords.
I'm loving Fulgrim's Whisper.
I would probably say Dorn's might be up there as far as like the worst, but not as bad, because he still does what he did before, but better. Whereas Mortarion is a complete shift. Like Mortarion isn't even he doesn't even have that option to stun anymore. So
the stun mechanic is almost critical, because it's anything on the board you can stun.
Yep.
And the worst part about like Dorns, you can earn naturally through the game. Mortarion, you got to gimp yourself because you have to actively prioritize poisoning.
In your deck,
poisoning's good, but you need more than what you would normally bring to get it.
I was going to say, well, there's the benefit of the Blessing of Nurgle. You got a whole bunch of little tiny frontline things, and you just drop down a Blessing of Nurgle. Now everything has got poison, so good luck on your opponent to not just start knocking that timer down.
I think the Death Guard got a couple soft buffs that were included when they changed like the Marks of Chaos for the Mark of Nurgle. Like that made things better. That's great. That kind of synergizes with what they want to do. They get more health as well as the poisonous, which was always kind of a big thing that they are leaning into. Anyways, they've got really beefy troops, but I don't know if that's enough for what they want to do. Like if you're aiming to do poison, especially with the change to like sacrifice, like poison is kind of a bad thing. Like you don't want to have to kill their troops via poison if they have a sacrifice mechanic, because they can trigger it twice. I've had games where I'm playing as the Salamanders and they poison my epistolary Rastan. I'm like, okay, I'm going to blow you up for 2. I'm going to hit you for 3, and then at the end of my turn I'm going to blow you up for another 2. Thank you. Like, I mean, I didn't even have to work for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Callous Typhon needs a revamp on his purple card, to be honest. Make it like Cenotite Abeyon. Make it like Cenotite Abeyon, so it will return to your hand every time you use it at the end of your turn.
At this point, make it even crazier. Let it steal the troop. Fuck it. I want their troop.
I don't know about the steel troop. I mean, but I do think it could be better.
Listen, I want their shit. I need my Samus card, but better.
Yeah, that's a Defender of the Caliban thing. The Death Guard don't care about that. I do like Typhon though. If you get a board, I liked when they made the changes, and they, especially with Purity of Will, and it was like you no longer. And this is granted, like I said, this is like last year, but the Death Guard made that shift because for the longest time it was like, how do you play Death Guard? Well, first you need 2 Death Shroud, then you need 2 Endurance, then you need Yu-Gi-Oh!, and then you go from there. Like that's your whole point, is to get Death Shroud on the table, and that's all you do it. And now with Syafa, with Typhon, you can play, and even Mortarion, you can play a lot more troops and just not even include Death Shroud in your deck if you want to. We're not talking about Garo, because he's Death Guard, but he's his own thing. He's a Legion of 1.
Garo is built different.
He's a Legion
Garo
of 30
needs an
troops.
AOS.
Is he still one of the top warlords
No.
in the high ranking? Because I know for a while there he was.
He popped in there when Corn's Favor got its initial change for a short period of time before people realized Cypher did it better.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Garo's long dead.
He'll have his day when that style gets certain rewards, or if there's more like cheap troops. I think Displaced Civilians is another tool for him to some degree as like a late game, maybe. But
so the Displaced Civilians, they came up on the store today, and I made a post in the sub basically trying to understand the wording of their card.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
What's the appeal of bringing in these types of small troops?
You give the enemy something you can eat, because it gives one to the enemy too. You can either activate Battle Honor. There's many things that can trigger it. So Battle Honor, Fierce Onslaught builds,
Viral
Goreborn,
Bombs, Destiny's Hand.
Destiny. Like I use it in my Logar, I drop the 3E card, the board is full of them. I drop Destiny Hand same turn as a 9E play, I'm guaranteed Whispers. Mm-hmm. That's just how to guarantee it.
Easily. Yeah, and that's always fun, is using Destiny's Hand when you got a chance to just... I did it against a guy playing Luther, and he had a whole bunch of little defenders of Caliban. And on his turn, I was like, if he doesn't see it coming, he is going to be in a lot of trouble. And he just kept pinging me for one, and I'm like, all right, dude, it's my turn. Have fun with, I think it was 6. I had a full board of Spawn of Chaos, or Chaos Spawns. I'm like, cool, now I'm going to transform. You just, have fun with this.
Now you see the appeal of Displaced Civilian, because you choose when that happens.
Yeah.
Let me log onto the game and buy a couple copies.
You can also, there's a couple other...
I think I'm going to buy some later.
There's a couple
I do recommend it.
Like Lucius with Concentrated Fire. Profits pretty well from those.
I'm not going to talk about the deck because the person who made it may want to keep it a bit secret, but we found out something nutty with Concentrated Fire and that card, so...
Oh, I've been playing Concentrated Fire with Lucius for a while, so it's...
Oh, it ain't Lucius. It ain't Lucius. That makes it work.
Oh, okay.
Lucius or Fulgrim.
Well, it'd have to be one of 4. Or it could be Marosian. I forgot that they do have a 5th Warlord now, so...
They do. But it's not him. It may or not be the Perfection Man.
Ah, okay.
They figured it out. I just want to say, the bastards known as Ribbers Moon and Orthanol are crazy. I guess they shared in the TO chat, so it's not too private anymore. They found out a Concentrated Fire Fulgrim deck that's pushing a 90% win rate in High Terra.
Well, you burst out. I mean, with anywhere between 7 to 8, and then if you're throwing in like an Orders from Terra or Corn's Favor or a second one, I mean that's a 1-turn lethal right there. So
yep,
and you didn't see it coming.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
It's one of those things where, like, it's just played from. So I mean, there is a lot to do with the with cards like that, with the civilians, where you're given the cards. Like, you just have to know when you're playing with it that, like, that's my intention. That's what I'm building for. I don't know. I mean, yeah, we do Death Cloud for Whispers with Mortarion. Beyond that, I don't see it being useful. Maybe, like I said, maybe Garrow, like, as a pinch. But he's got a lot of other 0 to 1 cost troop options that he could throw down that might be better.
It's an option, but I don't really think it's a good one.
So yeah, I mean, in general, I mean, with the Death Guard, as far as they go, I guess we could talk about the Warlords first. We talked a little bit about each of them, kind of, but with...
We're missing 2 of them, to be exact.
Well, we haven't talked much about Syafa as much, or as our Direct Rask, which I think... For the longest time...
Direct Rask, love that guy.
Yeah, for the longest time, Direct Rask was actually, like, pretty much the best one for the Death Guard because he was really flexible. He still is. He hasn't. His ability hasn't changed. I mean, he's very flexible.
Because, I mean, he does what he does perfectly. Yeah. If you have 4 HP...
I think he's the only Warlord now who can take down vehicles and structure by attacking them because, Forex
took that away from Forex, yeah. I took a break from playing for a while. I mean, I was still logging in every day to keep my vet status because that's just a pain in the ass to lose. But I hadn't been playing too much. I got pretty much obsessed with another game called Sunless Sea. But I've played it before, but regardless, when I found out that, I mean, I used to main Forex probably 2-3 years ago. One of my favorite things was just setting up those barricades and just putting stuff from behind the lines and just taking pot shots. So to find out that they had taken away his ability of, it sucks to hit Mountain Pharaohs for 4 damage, but at least you can get rid of that fucking thing. And to take that away, I was like, all right, I'm sure they're just trying to balance things out, but it's just one of those, like, get off my lawn, you kids, kind of old player moment. Like, I can't believe you guys would change things like that. But I imagine, I try to give the devs as much leeway as possible because I'm sure it can't be easy to constantly be pressured to release new stuff as well as balance your old stuff and, have such a diverse card pool that nobody really pulls from, the lesser used cards and whatnot. So it was a bit of a shocker, but I also don't keep up too much with the dev announcements when it comes to these types of things. I also don't pay attention to the meta. I just try to have fun with the game and get frustrated and take breaks.
The Forex change shocked a bunch of people. No one really saw it coming.
He was a pretty popular warlord. I mean, Iron Warriors was one of the first legions I started learning more about, and I was like, "Oh, what's this legion all about?" I mean, I will credit the card game for helping me understand more of the lore, for sure. And then again, going back to what I was saying earlier of definitely like the siege mechanics that are, indicative of the Iron Warriors tactics. You know, the drawn out, grueling fights, and I mean, I'm sure we can all attest to some of the fights that you've had with Iron Warriors, and I mean, staying on topic, to the scent of Death Guard too. I mean, they certainly were that slog of a thing. You keep dropping those morons.
Deliverance.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I'll tell you now. I started from going from tabletop Death Guard army to this card game Death Guard, and I quit the game because I'm like, they're slow, but they're not slow in the same way as the tabletop. This isn't fun. So
They stink.
Yeah, well, it's what they do. They do it a bit too well on
tabletop.
Not tabletop in the card game.
Yeah, if you're playing slow, but you're getting good results, that's one thing. But when you're playing slow and you're just like, I just burned 7 minutes on a game and I still lost, or just barely won, it's
Iron
not
Man's moment.
it's not a good feel. And I think, personally, I think they've gotten better. I do agree that there are some troop cards that still just are meh, and most of those, I would honestly say, are the ones that have got the original Horus Heresy, Visions of Heresy art for the most part. There's some exceptions to that, but I think for the most part, those are the ones that really just they're stinkers. But
Executor.
like the new cards, I like just about every single new card that they got, and I think
I have one problem with their new cards, and it's goddamn corrupted Grolger.
that's the only one. Yeah, that's the only one I don't like.
That shit sucks.
No, yeah,
He
he's
sucks, man.
You know what would make him good? If normal Grolger, the legendary card, when he dies, he puts in play a corrupted Grolger, and then I get bigger value. It don't make sense that Also, they put 2 Grolgers in. I just need to say that, and that annoys me.
Mm-hmm.
You have
You're gonna
2
have 3
Grogers, but you don't have 2 Garrows.
No, we can't have 2 Garrows. That would confuse players.
Listen.
We need Garrow. Or at least Garrow buff him or something. Shit's sad.
That's the problem with Garrow, though. He's so fast that if you buff him too much, the game gets too fast.
Oh yeah.
Also,
you're losing in 3 minutes.
His artwork sucks, man. What the fuck?
Nothing compares to Salt Harvest's original artwork.
No. You all haven't seen Angron's original art.
Now I'm trying to think. I mean, I've been playing this card game for a while. I remember when I got Angron out of a free crate.
Angron's original alt art scared children.
I'll share it with you guys. Hang on. I have a meme I made especially for it when it went away.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was on the
Armor of Mars. It's a close up of that, basically, and it was literally just his face, just his gnarly. And I mean, granted, he's been redesigned as far as his appearance goes, but it was pretty ugly. And at the time, you saw that face quite a lot because many people just played Angron.
I don't blame him because I'm pretty sure he was just a 3 attack no matter what back then.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the Death Guard, I don't know, like they've got the whole Grolger thing, and I mean that might be a question that we're going to want to bring up here in a couple of weeks, Axel. That's probably the only exception because I think that 6/6 that does damage turns into a 7/7.
Awesome. Yeah, Sergeant Tarag.
Yeah,
Sergeant Tarag, love him.
They have a flanker, which can have a conditional poison, which I like. They've got their new warlord. I've had a lot of fun with the Syafa. I think a lot of people have. Any warlord that makes units, and then on top of that makes a frontline unit is very nice. The 2/3 that makes the poison ammunition is very good. The only card, and I just got it a couple days ago, which is why I haven't used it, was the Epic. I didn't get a chance to really play with the Epic that makes their attack equal to their toughness, and then use that with a plague lead or something like that. That's something that I got to build and play with a little bit. But I think they got a lot of good tools, and to kind of double down on moving away from just the old Death Shroud play style. The thing is, their games still go long. They still go the distance, but it feels like you've got a lot more heavy hitters to throw out there. And as the game has progressed, some factions that are, that was the thing that the Death Guard have is we have big fat troops. That's it. That some of them have frontline. That was their identity, right? And poison was whatever. But then you start getting Iron Hands, and then you start getting Dark Angels, and then you get Custodians. And it's like, well, there's a lot of guys who've got big fat troops too. Like, what else
Don't have
do you
to
do?
sacrifice attack.
Yeah. And now I feel like they still have the big fat troops, but they have also got some decent early start stuff that can still pack a punch or kind of helps pack a punch. And I think
gives you
that's
that
good.
board control that you need in the early game too with Death Guard.
Yeah.
The what is it? The 5-drop card to get you the 3/1/4s front line, and then you can hit that with your Blessing of Nurgle or the guy who's creating the chem munition. So they have ways of giving you that early board control, which is going to be key to a Death Guard offense, because you just kind of want to overwhelm your. I mean, at least in my play style, I just want to try to overwhelm your enemy with things that they just can't get rid of, short of a satellite defense or planetary purge, something along those lines that can just try to wipe out your entire board.
And even then, it's got to be hefty, because like you could throw down like a Purity of Will, and I like with like Typhon, then Typhon can let the Purity of Will attack and then heal that, and then it's healing everything else. And I mean, it's pretty fun. You can
you get some sick combinations.
I've had games with Typhon where
Nice fun.
yeah, where he's down to like 2 hit points, but then I get stuff going, and by the time the game ends, he's back up to 35 hit points. It's crazy that those tournaments can exist, and it's not necessarily the best place you want to be, but the fact that that is the testament of the Death Guard, especially when you get the right stuff going, and your opponent has thrown everything they can at your 5/8s and your 7/7s and your 5/5s, and then they're just tapped out, and there's nothing to like. Okay, now comes the relentless onslaught, and the relentless isn't the right keyword, but that is definitely the tenacious plotting of the Death Guard.
It's just the like I said, the Romero zombie type of thing. It's just they're gonna keep coming, and especially if you got a couple of Plague Marines on there with your Purity of Will and with your Typhon, good luck getting rid of them, short of some sort of like direct termination. Your Baltimore Sword or something around those lines. Like, that's just going to be around.
Yep.
Now that you say that reminds me, that would have been a good card to give them. Something that gives their troops backlash, put in play a Plague Marine. Something thematic that would have worked, even if it's just a troop.
There is a troop that does that, I'm pretty sure.
Well, there's a troop that does that. It's Grolger I was talking about. And should instead put in play a corrupted Grolger, because that makes sense. And I'm sad now. You've made me sad for reminding me of the thing I complained about.
I just dropped this in the chat. I've always thought this was kind of funny in the loading screen. Now I have actual chance to make a joke about it. I mean, this guy about to like serve you or what?
He totally rap battled you. You don't even know it.
Oh yeah, no, he's waiting for you to spit fire back at him.
It's
and,
like what?
Oh
yeah,
you can't see it, but there's like 5 other like Space Marines. All the Astartes behind him are just going. Oh!
What? I mean, is he supposed to be a Imperial Fist?
Yeah, that's an Imperial Fist Praetor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is what they look like.
What is that, Mark III Heresy armor?
Yeah, I'm not sure which character he is in that book. Because basically supposedly, I mean, if you look at the covers for both the Loyalist and the Traitor, those are all characters that appear in a short story at some point within the book that they're in, but I can't recall it. I don't think that's Diaz, and I don't think that's Sigismund. So
no. I just finished reading the Warhawk, which was just absolutely great. The Siege of Terra has been such a great series.
I need to get to it. I have all the books legally, by the way, 100% legally.
Of course, that's the only way.
Yes, of course. And anyone at home who totally wants the books legally too, of course, I may or may not have a link to it that I could give you legally, of course.
Legally, I mean, I picked up the first 15 books. Like a lot of my Warhammer stories, it comes from working an overnight shift at the small hotel where I do security. And I have a lot of downtime, and it was a humble bundle. First 15 books of the Horus Heresy for $15. I'm like, well, hell, that's a damn good deal. So I just I devoured the Horus Rising, Flight of the Eisenstein, and False Gods. And that's kind of when I realized after reading Flight of the Eisenstein that this was, they've made it to Terra, but there's just so many other stories that they have to tell.
Yeah.
And it's been a really great book series so far. I have a flash drive full of every single book. But do we have an official release date? I know we're kind of getting off topic here, but is there any sort of official release date for the next Siege of Terra book?
I don't know.
I don't think so yet.
Oh well, it'll come out when it comes out.
Myself, I'm at Born
Well
of
versed.
Flame, I think is the book that I'm at in.
Which one are you on?
Born of Flame. There's like 4 books left to go in the Heresy part, and then I move into the Siege. So Buried Dagger, I know, is a big Death Guard.
So
book.
good. Such a great book. Because you were talking about Mortarian's backstory, and Buried Dagger really does kind of go into his early days as just sort of like a warband leader there on Bar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and it does a really good job out of it.
Oh, it's a fantastic book. And the crazy thing is you end up reading these books and you start empathizing with these characters that, in 10,000 years are just absolute monsters. But here you're kind of like, yeah, I can kind of see your point. Like,
listen, there's no downside with taking Papa Nurgle's blessings. You just become,
I was watching a Valrak stream and he had.
Not Valrak.
I love Valrak. He's hilarious. And the purity seals that he has on his mic stand.
Do you know about the Who Is Ever Guild scenario?
No.
He got sponsored to do a video for this game. Like, they paid for it and all that. And during the video, people asked, when are you going to do the stream for Everguild's game? And he went, Who is Everguild?
He's fucking hilarious, man. I actually watched him get stomped by Mr. Midnight, bruh, on a stream.
Midnight did really good in that, and it was entertaining. Oh, man. That entire stream was a blast.
I would use that as the word I would use. I tuned into that briefly. I was at work and I was like, I can't do this.
Guff was in emotional and physical pain from it, but I was having a blast. And I think that's when.
Yeah, I don't mind that and we've talked with Mr. Evergill, and he's part of his position as community manager is to reach out to content creators outside of the Horus Heresy game as well, like other Warhammer, lore content creators, guys who play other games, but still have a massive audience and who can reach that audience to kind of make them aware of the game. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. The biggest thing with that stream, though, was like watching it. It was like anybody who tunes in to watch this is not going to want to play this game based off of how he's. I don't want to say selling it, but he's not good. He's not reading the cards. He's not doing anything to explain the game. He's just losing badly. And
cards out there and not reading what they do.
Yeah, and it's just this is. It made me sad because I felt like you were watching and you could see where it could be done better. And that's just a criticism. And hopefully, as we see more, I think that there's been a couple content creators that have done little lore videos and kind of done mention stuff with the Galaxy in Flames expansion, and those have done, I think, a lot better as far as how they plugged the game and tied it into whatever their whatever video they're doing. So
I saw a few comments on those videos going, I won't play the game, but I think that sounds pretty cool. A lot compared to the Valrax ones, which were just, this game is shit. The contrast is very vicious. Also, Valrak deleted the original Everguild video, the one where he plays as Dorn.
Valrax fans are just cringe,
interesting. That is the best way to put it. I agree with you solely, but for the people at home who have no idea what you mean, they're interesting.
I'm not a native speaker, but in one word, they're
cringe. They're
fucking purists, and not in the good kind, they're memesters. They say they drive memes to the fucking ground, and it's not a good look when you get to their community.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Man, I had no idea. I only recently started watching some of the live streams, but I only stick around for a couple of minutes. I have other things I need to do. And just watching somebody talk at the camera, I don't really dig any of the, anybody live streaming. It's just never been something that I think I'm just too old for that shit, to be honest. It doesn't interest me.
You understand.
Hey, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You watch what you like, do what you do.
Absolutely.
Like, there's some people out there who get violent at the idea of a podcast. I don't know why they do, but they do.
True.
I mean, we're all human. We're gonna find ways to get violent about anything.
Yeah. Like, oh man,
Sports team,
the amount of
No.
rage we got when they found out the Q&A was on the podcast. Like, a lot of people were happy. A lot of people were angry. I don't get the people who are angry.
Yeah, you just have to listen. Like, I mean, for me, like, I just make the videos that I want to make because I've got, stuff I want to explain, or I felt like people should know about this, or, just enjoy the game and hype the game. But yeah, I don't tune into a lot of live streams and do a lot of chatting. I'm of that era where, for me, like, I would go to my friend's house and they'd be like, "Oh, cool, let's play Nintendo." And when they would say that, and I loved how, like, back in the day, like, when you could just say, "Let's play Nintendo," and that was, like, it didn't matter what game you were playing Nintendo. But you would sit down and then you would just sit there and watch them play the game because it wasn't a two-player game. And you'd be like, "Wow, I'm so glad we're doing this. This is fun."
Can I get next?
Right, exactly. And then they'd use, like, cheat codes with, like, the Game Genie. And so, like, 99 lives. Oh, the Game Genie. Oh, that takes me back.
Bringing it back.
Brings it back.
That was
dating ourselves here.
That was great. Those were good stuff. Like, it just made this back before, like, just the possibilities that
Good old days where cheating on a game was hard.
Well, cheating on a game, like, required like a third party, purchase. But at the same time,
was it Shark Card? Was it Shark Card for, like, the? Was that one of them too?
Game Shark.
Sure.
Yeah, Game Shark was for the discs.
Game Shark.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember having Game Shark for my I think it was the first PlayStation.
And then you had to either buy the magazines that had the Game Genie codes, or get a book of Game Genie codes. And, like, there was no internet. There was no, like, how do I beat this level? It's like, well, did you get the latest issue of Nintendo Power? You didn't. Guess you're out of luck.
Well, I think what's been kind of cool about getting older is with the prevalence of YouTube and retro gaming, I can go on to YouTube and search for games on my Game Gear or whatever system that I just never was able to beat, and then watch somebody do a complete playthrough. And it saves me the hassle of having to find an emulator and the same ROM to play it again. But it's just more fun to think, oh, okay, so that's how you were supposed to get past that part. I had no idea that, I had, it was a Shinobi game for my Game Gear. Mm-hmm. And you have 5 different ninjas that you could switch between. And I could always make it to the last level, but I could never beat it because there was a certain order you were supposed to use your ninjas. And I just never understood what it was. So, 20 years later, here I look it up on YouTube, which was not even a thing when I could even think about it. So, as a kid. So it's pretty cool. So I will give the old school games, credit for being ridiculously hard, but not giving anything away.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me the biggest retro game, like, that obstacle that I ever encountered was the Ninja Turtles Nintendo game, and the dam level where you're swimming in the dam and you have to disarm the bombs. Like, that's still the hardest level. And then I watch people just fly through it because they probably have done the map like 800 times. And I'm like,
they have on the emulator on your computer, you can just save your state wherever.
Right, the save state thing made a big difference. Like with some of those games,
all of a sudden you can just spawn back.
The emulator feels so good sometimes.
Yeah. We're getting a little off topic, but that's
okay. Is there such thing as topic here? I think
there's a save state in the Eye of Terror when we're talking about the Death Guard. There is. There's a save state.
Like there's a stretch here, Scuff.
That's how things work here. It's crazy. Eye of Terror Studios save state takes us all the way back to talking about the Death Guard Warlords.
Oh, hey, Death Guard Warlords. Durek Rask.
Love him. Love Durek Rask.
He's so fun. He was the first Death Guard Warlord I played and actually had fun as.
Well, with
so many utilities, man.
With the Warlord, because I mean, like, if you've got the bikes or you've got nerdlings, you basically have got a free 5 damage on things. And not to mention, if there's a big vehicle that he just doesn't want to deal with, he can either face hit it, or if he's got Vengeance, he can sneak attack it and get from there. Like, if he can get Raven's Talons, That would be nice. That's
Nutty.
free vehicle.
It seems
structure
entirely too dependent upon the RNG. Like, I love Crucial Choice. I don't even have Crucial Choice, but some of those legendaries that people, will say, "Oh, it's an insta buy inside the shop." I feel like it's far too RNG dependent. It's cool if you can get like you were saying, Raven's Talons on a non-Raven guard. True.
Here's the thing about Crucial Choice. Before they added the missions to the game, no matter what you got in that pool, one of them was going to swing the game heavily in your favor.
Now,
I'm getting shit like Raven Guard as a word bearer, and I'm like, cool. I will never be able to do this.
I've since the addition of the missions, that's 18 more legendary cards. I think somebody did the math at some point, which actually filters down the pool, and you get a choice of 3, and it seems like most of the time it's one of those as a mission.
I'm gonna say it. The Crucial Choice is now balanced since they've diluted the pool so heavily.
That's cool.
So,
exactly.
what was the reason for the missions? Did they feel like that was just a missing mechanic inside the game?
It's the original excuse.
I don't know.
Was to add a new playstyle to the legions, which makes sense for your initial ones, but then it kind of felt to drop off with some where it's like play Astartes as an Ultramarine. Okay, I was going to do that anyways.
It sucks.
The Load Siege was one of the ones that the first mission mechanic that I'd really discovered. Because again, I took a break for a couple of months. I just wasn't playing very heavily. So when they introduced the missions, I wasn't really around for the introduction of that. So, but loading Siege, I mean, especially since they reworked the Iron Warriors, loading Siege became really easily. So it's interesting that they wanted to try it, because you got to keep the game fresh for sure. Otherwise, you're going to start losing players. Is there how much of an active player base do we think there is?
It's a lot, is all we know.
Yeah, according to the last discussion or question we've had with that, it hasn't gone down, which is great. That's a positive.
We're only leveling up.
It's pretty sizable. I think the percentage of people who are active on places like Discord and Reddit and Facebook, that's like the tip of the iceberg. There's obviously, which makes sense, there's a ton of people who just don't have any desire or aren't aware as far as to communicate in the bigger communities, but there are that many people who have got accounts. Now, as far as how many of those accounts are active, or might be multiple players or the same player with several accounts because they've, forgot their password, got a different device, does that count, accounts that have sat for 2 years? I don't know. But according to the discussion, like the player base itself hasn't gone down. It hasn't shot up. It's pretty big and pretty steady. I think they would like to see it grow, obviously, for obvious reasons. So,
oh sure. I mean, it's certainly interesting that of all of the different types of mobile games that they've produced out there or they've licensed, that this one seems to have been probably the one that's taken off the most. Because I don't feel like anybody's in the 40K community or 30K community, I guess, is really talking too much about. I mean, I was playing Lost Crusade there for a while, but that's just shovelware.
Lost Crusade is interesting to say the least.
It was interesting, but after a while, it's just pay to win.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm being interested sarcastically. It's not great.
Sucks.
Yeah, no, I'll agree on that.
Sucks.
Freeblade was alright.
Freeblade had its moments.
Yeah, I mean, but now with events, I played Freeblade like 2 months or 1 month before I played Horus Heresy Legions. It's not fun. It's like you you shot orcs, they upgrade your weapons, upgrade your armor. But other than that, there is no variability. There is no alternative play styles like in Horus Heresy Legions.
No, it's a real shooter for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I think that's the one thing with, especially because we talked about a little bit earlier with like the way Games Workshop license their stuff, and most of their stuff that gets licensed is really just a reskin, and whoever will do it, and they're not looking into quality. And I don't know. I mean, there will be differing opinions on this, but I think the quality from Everguild is probably at the top as far as what we've gotten for Games Workshop video games. I think that, I mean, you have active game developers still actively developing the game, actively adding content, and the game itself is got a lot of depth. You know, we talked about like how each faction has gotten identity and actually feels like you're playing the faction. It's a card game, so there's the deck building strategy. There's the concept as far as, some matchups are better than others. There could be more modes. There could be better graphics or better, interface. I mean, those things could be improved, but in terms of what it is an actual game that I feel like, whenever you play it, like, hey, these could be cards in a deck box, and I could enjoy going and sitting across from a table and playing this game with somebody else.
I will say,
Yeah.
the little additional animations that they've added to the game certainly just kind of round it out. The new mechanic for stealth, as well as shield, little things like that. Yeah. They've definitely done their best to kind of add more flair to the game.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of neat to see that they've. And I mean, I also feel like they have a appreciation for the lore itself as well. You can tell that they have put time into researching. They've put time into story mode. And especially, I mean, I've been wanting to talk about this with somebody for years, literally. I mean, the interactions between the different warlords at times,
absolutely beautiful.
Interesting, because here you have these two characters that are very familiar in the lore setting in the books, interacting in a game, and the company has enough of an understanding that they've made it accurate. The Magnus and Russ talking to each other is fun. Or
the voice actors too.
Yeah, surprisingly for a free-to-play game, the voice acting is rather impressive. And
love it.
It's probably one of my favorite things about it, really.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very interesting.
One thing that I think is neat with the unique interactions sometimes is like when I see one, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that these guys had a moment or had some backstory. So you kind of get your interest piqued to learn a little bit more about it. And then some of them are just like some of the best moments, right? Like when Erebus,
especially Karn.
Erebus, yeah.
You beat me to it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
When I first encountered Leman Russ and Valdor's interaction, I was just like, man, these two are brothers, man. Even when they're facing the battlefield.
They were brothers, and now not so much.
A little less.
Yeah, they're not too friendly anymore.
They could just smooth it over some Mjod. Sorry, Mjod.
Mjod.
Oh God,
Mjod.
Yeah, I remember when it was Mjod. That was so terrible.
Mjod. Bring back Mjod.
I haven't. By the way, I haven't heard that yet. That
it was
the
early
Russ
days of Leman Russ with his voice acting, and his one of his line is, I need some Yod. And they butchered it and just called it Mjod. It was hard.
We need to bring it back.
Level.
No, that is one of the audio clips that Ancient Parrot does not have. Sadly.
I know, which is why we need the devs to bring it back. I'm going to petition Mr. Everguild to redub the lines, but pronounce them all wrong.
Out card, bruh. Let him sell an alternate art for Leman Russ with the old
another alternate art, but this time it's worse.
You just get alternate emotes. You just get like comical emotes.
I agree with this man. I think this man's a genius. Everguild, I think you need to hire him.
Clearly.
That's the worst that could happen.
We'll get into unique interactions with the Death Guard specifically. There's not a ton. But I think Syafa's got some new ones. Syafa's got some pretty cool ones, especially with the White Scars. I know, Syndical, you're anti-White Scars. I think Syafa's got some good throwdown lines.
Jang Saikon, bro. Pre-nerf Jang Saikon is cancer. I swear to God. I played Jesus Christ.
I
lost like 30 tickets in the event.
I agree. But I gotta say, they're finally calmed down just a wee bit. Just a wee bit.
Did they finally address the whole infinite bike thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. They made sure to address that.
I made the point in the Reddit when somebody was complaining about it, and I hadn't experienced it firsthand, but I was like, the Scipio bikes by the Ultramarines was roughly the same mechanic, and I got blasted to the fucking warp for even suggesting that.
Oh.
And
Hell no.
I mean, okay, yeah, it's two separate mechanics, but in my mind, it seemed relatively straightforward. Of like, okay, when Scipio bikes before it was nerfed, you could just keep creating them as long as you had courage.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, courage, your opponent kind of controls when courage goes off. That don't happen with this.
Also,
No, but not with Streak.
Did Scipio bike have flank? Or was it a pre-nerf Scipio bike?
I think it didn't have flank. I think it just kind of existed.
Oh no, it was just a straight 3/3 that you could drop.
Yeah, the problem with this was I play one card and then I can endlessly hit you with bikes until the troop dies. And you can't do nothing about it except cry.
Yeah.
People didn't like that.
Also when it is pre-nerf drilling site, when you can just play a drilling site or play your mission, then play another card, then play another card, then play. It's fucking cancer, bro. It's not fun when you fade.
No,
it's like every match you have with a white scars. Every match you have with a white scars warrior, just like a heavy sigh. Then you, Jesus fuck, you're just like that. Then you lose. Then you lose in the end.
He's finally found a place to rant about white scars.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta get your platform. And it is in Warhawk where the White Scars face off against the Death Guard? Is that correct?
Yes, it is. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
they take back the Lion's face for it.
They basically have the Mortarion and Jagathai have their final duel.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I won't spoil. I won't. I'll never spoil Siege of Terra books.
Well, especially because that one is the most recent one. So yeah,
it really is. And I mean, there was on the 40K lore, they were shutting down because there's some great moments between Sigismund and Dorn and Sigismund and Karn, and they're all over the 40K lore. At least they were when they first came out because everybody was super excited. And
also both Sigismund.
I mean, he could really use. I like his sort of like riposte ability that he has. Like you attack me and you take damage, but unless he has front line, it for me it doesn't seem like it's very well achieved.
Yeah,
what annoys me is
that
every other swordsman has this ability related to buffing themselves, so they can be a better
battle
sword.
owner.
All of them have this, but then Sigismund comes out and his ability to defend himself. Because like the other ones, almost all the swordsmen in this game have gain +1, +0, can act again, some variant. Except Sigismund, who just goes, I'm going to hide here, and if you hit me, I'm going to hit you.
I hit you.
It's just not very war or lore friendly, you know, when it comes to his...
To the Emperor's Champion, the greatest swordsman.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And defends himself.
Yeah.
Striding across the field of Terra, making Chaos Lords his bitch.
Yeah, just slamming down champions left and right.
It's so good.
That's really what we want to see.
It's so good.
Well,
you're gonna love Warhawk.
I'm looking forward to it. With the Death Guard Warlords, as far as like if you guys had to pick your favorite, your top one to play, least favorite, which one would it be?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to say my favorite is the new one. Durak Rast, your favorite? You know, I can't hold that against you. It's a solid pick.
Durak Rast.
I gotta say my favorite has to be the newest one we got. Infinite Meldon Squads is strong.
It is, having gone up against that, it can be very fresh because 1/4 on turn 1, that is heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
like that's at least 2 turns if it doesn't get some sort of defensive buff that you're going to have to deal with. I'd say probably. I mean, I don't play Death Guard very much anymore, but I always have had fun with Mortarion just because I like his ascended form.
He's too damn slow for me to have fun though.
No, I get that, and he definitely is not the fastest of the warlords. And like we even said earlier, when you get his Whispers of Chaos, he's even more useless. But he's just, from a lore standpoint, it's pretty fun. So, and I have never made a Durak Rask deck, and I don't think I've ever had a Callous Typhon deck that either wasn't one of those like came with the game kind of a thing. Because I feel like when you first started playing, Callous Typhon was one of the first warlords you got from the Death Guard. it's it's been 4 years since I played this game, or I've been playing this game, so I have a hard time remembering. But I just never play Death Guard anymore.
I can't blame you. They're not for everyone. They're definitely not for me.
No, for me,
Also,
like I said,
Python.
yeah, for me,
I agree.
I've got to have. I'll play them if I'm in the mood, and then once I'm not in the mood, I'm like, oh, I'm done. Like I've had my 4 or 5 games with the Death Guard. That was fun. I think between the two, for me, it's a tie between Syapha and Typhus as far as the two I enjoy the most, just because of how they work right now. Typhon healing the whole board over and over and over again is fun. I mean, he used to just heal himself for 3, and he got a huge change. His purple cartridge could be tweaked a little bit, but then Syapha putting out the 1/4s, and then you throw down some decent stuff behind those. In a game that is very heavy with flankers. At this point, almost every faction has got a flank. So I think the Salamanders are the only ones who don't. Actually, I'd have to take a list. I'd have to go through, but I think that's true.
I think at this rate, yeah.
Because I know the Sons of Horus got a flanker with this latest wave. That might be the case. Iron Hands don't have flanking, do they? No, they can.
They depend.
They could get flanking if they drop the Thunderhawk, but I don't think they have flank naturally.
Yeah, I don't think they have it naturally.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
They don't have...
interesting. But,
I can see that being kind of broken if the Iron Hands, because of some of their troop abilities with the Relentless, if they got flanked,
Relentless.
Dangerous.
Yeah. Well, that's the trick, is if you throw down like the...
Well, they don't have flankers. You can give them flank with Thunderhawk.
Yeah, if you've got Venerable Comic coming out with flank, that's where it gets nice.
Yeah, he's a threat with that. He's really the only vehicle.
Comic is pretty strong.
Yeah, he's the only one that is a vehicle that would be a threat with flank. Because the rest of them, the Relentless will only trigger next turn anyways. So you don't really want to attack with it because you already struggle to keep your shit alive.
Yeah, it's too bad about the Iron Hands. But... I've had a few good runs playing against them. I've never ran a Gabriel Sand. So I'll just pose a question to the rest of you guys. Is there a Legion in the game that you've just never bothered making a deck out of?
No, I've ended up playing all of them.
That's crazy. I've never made a White Scars deck, and I've tried to make Thousand Sun decks, but I just don't understand them very well. So I just collect the cards if I get them, but I've never unless I see Magnus up. So.
Until recently, I didn't have a Night Lords deck. Until recently.
With the new cards, did you make a Night Lords deck?
Yeah, and I'm waiting for Karen of Ion. I love that guy.
Yeah, Ophion will be nice.
Absolutely strong.
Mm-hmm.
Karen of Ion.
For a while, their curse was tops on the decks, because you could and you rush the Whispers of Madness, you get them up to 10. And then with Mercy and Forgiveness, you're just slicing and dicing and then dropping back into stealth. I've definitely had some frustrating matches against Kurz.
On the topic of frustrating matches, the Death Guard are known for their slowness, and that is the topic of today.
It's true. And I think that's sort of what speaks to their ability of the board control.
No worries, Scuff, I'll try.
By dropping them down, early game, especially the new Warlord with that 1/4. That can just be demoralizing, because all of a sudden now, regardless of what you have to do at your turn 1. Yeah. And I mean, good on him.
Where if you can actually get the quest going, he's very good with it.
It seems like they've done an overhaul of a lot of Warlord abilities, dropping them down from 2E to 1.
Yeah.
The Lorgar's Dark Gift is just 1 energy now, and I'm pretty sure back in the day it was 2.
It was 2, and it also was a random 1 to 3, and now just straight does 3. So.
Oh no, his ability. Yeah, I think his Dark Gift was always 1E though, and you get a 1E troop or 1E card.
Oh, you're talking about his base form. I was talking about the Dark Prophet form. But the I think you're talking about the mission for Death Guard. And that's one of those that falls in that pool of those missions that could see some tweaking. And I think probably in the next couple months we're going to see some of these missions that are not getting any play or didn't come out really strong as Everguild hoped. I think we'll see those get tweaked. I think we'll see the ones that are like over-tuned get dialed back a smidge. I have played every single Warlord at least 4 or 5 times. Some I play more than others. I mean, like when I'm playing Raven Guard, I tend not to play 6 as much as I'll play Nev or Korax or Sherokin, but I will play 6. Arendi, I played a couple games with. Honestly, I like Nev better. Like it seems like there's less work involved. But I think I don't think there's a Warlord I haven't played. There's just those ones that I just enjoy more than others. With the Death Guard, like I stick away. For the most part, the reason I stick away from Garrow is he's just too easy to play. I mean, I played him way back when the daily challenges were a little different, and I could just use his ability to heal the enemy warlord, and kind of like keep the game going a little bit, and then use that to for the use your warlord ability challenge. But with people who have played aggro Garrow, or way back in the day Vengeance Garrow, when that was a bad design, I prefer not to play Garrow. If I'm going to play Death Guard, I'll try one of the other 4. And I think that's fine. I mean, I definitely understand when people don't want to play Death Guard, or they're like, oh, I'm going to play Death Guard, and then they immediately regret playing it, because that is a faction. Yeah, it's a faction that is not for everybody. There are just play styles that are either going to be confusing, like you said. You mentioned, Thousand Suns. You don't understand it. It's kind of just something you're not really into, so you don't get into it.
It's just never been my thing. But if you're in the, I think of all the legions, Death Guard is certainly one of the ones that you can play, and every now and then you'll get somebody who rage quits because the games can just start to slog.
Yeah.
And, because with your purity of will, with your Typhon healing,
just
you can almost feel... Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been getting real frustrated with some people dropping endurance when I feel like I have the upper hand. So, they have that card pool that really does speak to a strong presence on the board and a strong game overall. But you really kind of have to be like, this isn't going to be a quick game. Right. If you do it right, it's not going to be a very quick match. You're going to be 7-10 minutes long if you try to play them right, because the whole idea is that it's going to be a slog, because you have these units that are just, they won't die. You keep shooting them full of bolts and they keep exploding, but they're still walking towards you. You're still got 1/4s with poison on the field. You've got, a Death Shroud that unless you jam it, it's not going anywhere. Keep removing it. That's cool. It's going to come back. That backlash is incredibly strong.
Oh yeah.
It's also cool that in the
when I play against Mortarion.
Yeah, Mortarion Death Guard are strong. Or not Death Guard, Death Shroud.
It's interesting that, much like what they did with Magic the Gathering, since I started playing that back in the early 90s, that there was always those card descriptions that basically ended up getting their own terms. Now we have Relentless, we have Backlash. Mm-hmm. It's cool that they finally put a name to all the different abilities as well. So, I really, of all of the mobile games out there, I still just am incredibly impressed with what Everguild's been able to pull off with such a complex card game that, relatively tries to stay balanced. I get that it's hard, and I get that, some of the earlier legions, like Death Guard's been around since the very first expansion. I mean, or were they... No, they were original, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, here's a legion that's been around, or a card faction that's been around since the very start of this game. And, here we are 3 or 4 years later, or however many years since the game's been out, that it's still a viable faction. It's still, even with nerfs and even with buffs throughout the years, people are still looking at the Death Guard as a viable contender for competitive play. And I really appreciate that, because it's so easy to just get stuck with the bright and shiny new factions or the bright and shiny new cards, and then here you can just go back to your old reliable. And I think it also speaks to your veteran players who might be more familiar with the older tactics might be coming back after some time, like you were saying, lost their passwords, created new accounts. And here they are coming back, and Death Guard is still a viable faction.
Which is nice to see. There was some time there where they weren't. There was a lot of time there where they weren't, to be honest. But
no, it's very, very true. I mean, it's got to be hard for Everguild to sit down around the conference table and start trying to talk about how they introduce these new factions or what new abilities they can do to keep the game fresh, because obviously that's in their best interest, is to not let this game get stagnant. And if the player base is as big as it seems to be, especially with the overseas, it's a global community. To me, I think that's really cool. It really does. I mean, stay out of global chat. That's just full of all sorts of anger and hatred.
I actually got muted, bro. I actually got muted on global chat.
A good example of said anger and hatred.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I stopped spamming too much on global chat after the Kinsa nerf, but it's too late. I got...
The deed has already been done. The deed has already been done.
Props to Everguild for also having really good translation software, because I've been using Duolingo to teach myself Russian for the last... It was one of those, like... I'm stuck at work when everything is shut down. Let's learn a new language, and my family on one side is from Belarus. So what the hell? Let's learn Russian. So to sound out the words and then tap the translation and actually see it translated, it's pretty effective, I have to say.
If it works, it works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Much like the Death Guard.
That's it.
Debatable at times, but
nice
segue.
They've had their lows. They've had the lows. Their highs have quickly been overcome. I think lacking some punch sometimes is really what drove them, or just being for the longest time when they were just so linear. It was like, okay, if you got a jam, hold on to it for that Death Shroud, or if you got a bounce, hold on to it for that Death Shroud. And now it's like, they're not going to play Death Shroud. They've got other things to play, and so you better use that for those other troops, or find some other ways. I think right now the Raven Guard with the sentencing, I think that's a pretty good answer to some of the Death Guard stuff. Although they've got some decent ways to get around the stealthing. I don't know. I don't think they'll. The game will come and go, and like you said, like balancing for 18 factions. Magic has got 5 colors, and obviously you can play. You don't have to play mono versus compared to Legions where you're tied to a faction, you've got neutrals. But Magic's also got blocks. The game has evolved over 30 plus years, I think, at this point, which is crazy to think about. And so there's every year there's a new format. There's cards that aren't in the pool. There's things you've got a base set. Legions is everything. Everything's in there. So when you talk about balancing, or you add new neutrals, neutrals affect everything, so they're not going to get everything right all the time, and sometimes they're going to think like on paper this looks really good. In execution, it turns out that it doesn't, because we forgot that these other 9 decks exist out there, or we forgot that these 3 cards would make this card extremely broken and people aren't having fun with it. So they're not always going to get it right, but I do agree that I have not seen or felt like there's been a faction that they've put in the game that didn't feel like it played like the faction itself. I was surprised with the Blood Angels, although lore accurate with the drop pod and landing, that kind of makes sense. That actually makes sense. White Scars, I don't know, a lot of people complain that they didn't have a unique mechanic, but I'm like, it's fast and first strike. That's what the White Scars are. Like that hit and run.
Hit you quick.
Well, fast and flank, not first strike.
Well, flank. They had a couple first strike, but most of it was fast and flank. I wasn't surprised. The streak was a very cool idea.
It was a welcome addition.
Yeah, it was a welcome addition.
It's too cool.
But it wasn't anything.
Too cool.
Yeah, it wasn't anything that was like when they came out, I was like, these guys are too slow. Like they had a lot of fast stuff it's what I expected them to have. And I think Everguild has hit that time and time again. Balancing is a different discussion sometimes, but in terms of the feel of the game, I think the Death Guard really have got the feel of the Death Guard. And some of the cards are ones I just just not interested in playing. Like Poison, like if I'm playing Death Guard on the tabletop and they've got what's the effect that they've got with the poison? I forget what it's called. It's like blight or something.
Miasma
or something like that. It's like it's just annoying right? It's like, okay, like but they don't build their army around that idea. They just build their army around like big, fat, tough guys that take positions and take spots on the table and then hold, And I think the game is representative of that. So I mean,
it really does speak to their ability to again, going back to their understanding of the game mechanics, even on the tabletop, as well as incorporating the lore into the game, to be able to give that feeling. So, I've never played tabletop myself, but I can definitely understand the mechanics that the Death Guard use, even just from reading their codex. A friend of mine at work gave me the codex to flip through. So it's kind of cool that, here Everguild, because it'd be so easy to crank out another, mobile game based around Warhammer, like so many others. But here you actually have a company that is, listening. I would assume they're listening to their players when they call for balance changes, or at the very least are paying attention enough to be willing to change things rather than just, turtling in and not having to change anything. So it's
finally getting a community manager shows they listen.
It does. It really does. And I think that's a big part of it. We've suffered so long with so many terrible mobile games that Games Workshop has licensed, when all of us really want is, at least in my opinion, I'm more willing to spend, $20, $30 on like a computer game, or, $5-10 if it's a really solid mobile game that I'm going to get the enjoyment out of. I don't like being nickeled and dimed. I personally haven't spent any actual real world money on Legions. I've just been able to collect everything through gems. And the thing is, I'm not opposed. It's just nothing has really come up in either shop that I felt like was I needed to drop the 20 or so bucks on a new deck.
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing. I still have a hard time with that. Spending money on fake things that isn't like a full game.
Yeah, or digital wise. I mean, like, it's great that it's mobile and it's a digital card game, but when the server goes down, you don't have anything to hold for.
Exactly. I will say that playing it on PC is a little bit better, because if anything, you can see the artwork a little bit more.
Yeah. And
really appreciate some of the. I posted it in the Legions back. I think it was around Christmas time. It was the that Space Wolf's Emperor's Executioner card, where he's just putting a flamer to the back of a Thousand Suns head. And when you're playing on your mobile device, regardless of how big your screen is, you're really not going to be able to appreciate the art that they've incorporated into the game. And it's also fun to see covers of books that have been sliced up and put as card backs or whatnot. So I think that's also pretty cool.
Yep. I had EG who crops the photos to make the cards needs a raise, because he's putting in a lot of fucking crop work.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
for sure.
And they're certainly pulling some stuff from obscure parts of the core or the covers. So I'm pretty excited. I'm intrigued to see where this game continues to go. It's really kind of neat to have been a part of it for so long, and to really start to see it kind of coming into its own in recent months and recent years.
Yeah, speaking of, just really quick, speaking of covers, that cover, the picture you've got there, that Imperial Fist, is that actually a card? He's like one character.
I don't think he's a card.
I don't think it's a card.
I don't think so either. There's 3 characters on that image that are not in the game as cards, and he's one of them, which is surprising.
Yeah, it is surprising. What was also surprising was that this is the original loading screen. I mean, he's been on that the loading screen since the very beginning.
It's the second loading screen, because the first one was all traitors. This is the loyalist.
Oh yeah.
The first one had Lucius's weird ass head, and I forgot that was a thing. That haunted my dreams. I just remembered it now, because Lucius on that
dreams tonight now.
Because Lucius's face is like front and center, and he looks fucking stupid in the original loading screen.
It's all scarred up and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you've got the Raven Guard who's on there. You've got Corvo. You've got the Dark Angel. You've got Targetai. The only guys who aren't are that Imperial Fist, and then those collection of who we would imagine are either Dark Angels or Knights in the background. Yeah.
In the background, I think that's a Space Wolf. There's a collection.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna pull up the loading screen again, because I'm pretty sure there's a collection of them in the background.
Yeah, there's 3 of them. Yeah. But that's one of them's got like checkered on his shoulders, which is why I thought it was a Dark Angel.
Well, there's a Dark Angel right at the front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm guessing from the facial hair, they gotta be. I'm thinking either Knights Errant or Space Wolves. Well, not Knights Errant. We didn't have Knight Errants yet, but they're gray as Space Wolf gray.
Yeah, it could be. They could be Knight Errant gray too. So hard to say.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're Space Wolves from the long ass hair because there's a blue fucking Dark Angel right at the front.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's the Knight Proctor, whoever the Dark Angel 7/7 guy is. And I think there's that salamander on the far right of. I mean, we're totally. This is an audio medium, and we're totally talking about visual stuff. And maybe just listening to podcasts is like.
Hey, if you play HHL, you've seen the loading
screen. You
should
be able to pull up the load screen. You know what we're talking about here. I'm trying to think like if I'm going through the salamanders card pool. I think that salamander is not featured on any cards either. No, but I mean. That's a tough image to get because you can barely see that guy's helm, so I could understand why he wouldn't be. But otherwise, yeah. So give it time. There's plenty. There is no shortage of Horus Heresy artwork. That is for sure.
Oh yeah, they got plenty, and they're going to use all of it, obviously.
Well, with the rest of the Death Guard card pool, if you guys had to pick your top card, your top card, and then let's pick a Death Guard card that you would like to see reworked, which could include specials, whispers, whatever. What would they be?
That's a great question. I'm actually loading into Legions right now to take a look at the card base because it's just been a minute.
All right, I gotta say,
I'd like to see Mortarion just being reworked to be a slightly more powerful.
Yeah, I'd like to see a more interactive, more speedy. Because right now his gimmick of I stun or I remove stun, while good, it's just not fun. There's multiple flavors of why I don't like that thing.
Let's take a look here.
But I gotta say my favorites. I want to say Endurance. That's a strong ass board wipe. Well, not initially board wipe, but board damage. That's strong board damage.
I actually do not have Endurance. I'm looking at my cards right now. I do not have that.
It's one you want if you're going to run them.
Well, that's why you have to play Death Guard.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the artwork for Blight Grenade is really cool, especially when you understand the lore. I mean, that's a Space Marine's head. But I still feel like Garrow could use a rework on his art. It just looks bad.
Buff Garrow art?
I mean, if anything, but... and maybe Captain Ujioj. He's looking kind of weird too.
Ujioj.
Yeah. So let's say like Loken had alt art. Now, granted, Loken was a starter like free warlord. He got an alt art, which was relatively decent.
Weird ass decision.
If Garrow had an alt art, would you buy it? If it was good,
yeah,
if it was like really good.
Yeah, if it lets me play as the Agents of the Sigilate,
I will. Yeah. I will buy that.
If I can play as the Agents of the Sigilate.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, see,
that would be a better alternative.
We want that Agents of the Sigilate card pool because damn, is it solid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even if you just had a different ability as a Knight Errant, basically, that would be nice.
It would be.
The artwork for I understand perspective is like his hands closer, but if you look at the Garrow artwork, his gauntlet is mammothly huge. It's like bigger than his face. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, their perspective is. I mean, that's always the funny thing about looking at a Space Marine in armor with their helmet off is their head looks so small.
It looks like their body. It looks like the guy who couldn't draw the arm into the shoulder pad, so he just put like a cloak over it. He's like,
yeah. This is good enough.
Use your imagination. That's how it gets in there. If I had to pick like a least favorite or like a card I'd like to see reworked for the Death Guard, I feel like Eisenstein is always at the top of my list. There are a few cards that works decently with. Return a troop to your hand, give it +2/+2. But the game pace is so fast, and for a faction that wants to have strong stuff on the board, taking something off the board and not even reducing the cost of it or anything just feels so counterintuitive. That's like that for me. That's my least favorite. Not to mention, the Eisenstein is like it's an iconic story arc there, and that card, every time it comes up in like draft, I cringe. I don't want to play it in game. Like it's not doing anything for me.
I mean, it's fitting. The card makes you run away.
Yeah. Technically, that's true. Does it make Garrow stronger? I don't know. And then as far as like favorite card, like just like the tops, Endurance is definitely. I feel like if I didn't say Endurance, I'd be lying. I would probably say if I had to pick a second. Personally, I like Halden Tal. I like the old artwork on that one. I like the character. That was just a great like ending for that guy. And the ability is pretty awesome. So that's just like a runner up. Like, but ultimately, Endurance is probably card number 1 in the entire faction.
Oh yeah.
How about you, Cynical?
I think Executors. I think that's the 4-drop with a one energy ability to poison another troop. I think he needs to have what is that effect when you drop a card?
Do
something. Yeah, rally. I think he needs to have a rally, remove a poison or stun a random troop or something, because I think if we want to rework some of the cards like Callous Typhon and Surrender to Suffering, his purple card, I think it would be a good synergy with Executor with his 1 energy ability to poison another troop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because right now, Death Guard, they don't have a lot of rally. They're really slow. It's why one of their best new cards has a rally deal damage, which is crazy for Death Guard. They don't got much of that. Then if that's what you want to rework the most, what card out of their card pool do you like the most?
Yeah, that Shroud. It's just an easy card to like, especially when your faction has a focus on poisoning troops. And that Shroud is an easy foil to your own Death Cloud.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to constantly come back. You can't get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can jam them, but...
I was going to say, if you jam them, you're screwed.
Well, they always have another.
Yeah. But you know, there are just some specific factions that have jam built in their cards. Yeah. If you want to specifically target Death Shroud or Death Shroud in general, you need to put a jam tactic in your deck, and sometimes that's not really good.
Yeah. As a word bearer, I have a natural way to deal with it. I'm going to send it back to your deck, because fuck you. But if I'm playing something like my Fulgrim deck or my Sanguinius, I gotta just, like, pretend it doesn't exist and just focus on your face, because I have no other choice.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a shame. But, you know, it's how they roll. They need something, because otherwise they have nothing. So I respect it.
Well, you gotta keep them interesting. That's the biggest thing. If you know, you are trying to appeal to all the fans, then you have to find ways of keeping the game fresh and playable.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm happy that at least it's a bodyguard unit. It's one of the Primarch's bodyguards, and they're good. A lot of them in this game are bad. A lot of the bodyguards in this game are just straight up garbage. The new Phoenix Guard.
Phoenix Guard.
So I can't ever use it. I want to, but I can't. I'm thinking of other bad Honor Guard. Well, there's the Honor Guard card for the Ultramarines, which is worse than a neutral, I'm pretty sure. Or no, not neutral, an Agents of Sigilate card that does the same thing.
I can't think of the Imperial Fist bodyguards. They weren't the Templar Brethren. That's a whole subsect of the Fists. I guess Arcanus was the biggest of Dorn's, like, you know, number ones.
I can't remember the name that the Imperial Fists give their bodyguards.
They're not Praetorians, but that...
No, that's a catch-all term.
Yeah.
I'm going to check here.
It's something.
I know that the word bearers technically don't
Huskarls.
Huskarl, there you go. That is what it is.
The Space Wolves got two of them as well, and they're not good.
Isn't Kestros a Huskarl?
Say that again?
Kestros, isn't he a Huskarl?
Is he?
No, Kestros was not a Huskarl.
Yes, he was.
No, not until Archimos died.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
then he
because
took that position. Up until
I
then,
just
he
looked at
was
him, right.
he was an assault marine, kind of tasked with like policing various spots in Terra, and then Archimus recruited him to help basically crack the Alpha Legions and attempt to infiltrate Terra. And then when Archimus died, Castros took his role and also took his name to Archimus. So he became a Huskarl, but he wasn't when we first were introduced to him.
You know what? I don't know much about their lore. I'm gonna just take that all as 100% fact.
The more you know.
Rainbow.
The Blood Angels have one of the strongest honor guard, though. The in-game, at least. Sanguinary guards are crazy.
Sanguinary Guard.
Yeah.
Absolutely busted.
Yeah.
The Shadow Wardens from the Raven Guard are very good. Like, some of them are good. Like, Iron Circle. That's neat. That's good. Night Lords don't have a great one. World Eaters, they're forgettable, just like in lore.
Oh, that hurts.
Sons of Horus, we finally got them in the wrong color. The Sons of Horus ones are the wrong color. Why don't we talk about this more? The Justarians are green in game when they're jet black.
That was the biggest thing.
To be fair, they are kind of black, but they're too shiny black. Like, they're not matte black like they should be.
Color of no color.
Exactly.
Well,
and then, Logard just uses all of the Galver back as his bodyguard, so, Dark Martyr counts.
Kind of, sort of. When we're not playing Legions, what do you guys do when you're not playing Legions?
Work.
Looking for work.
These days it's mostly Stellaris. I finally have a great and bountiful human empire. I kind of have to RP a little bit, and I refuse to play Xenos. So at least until I can get a functioning human win out of the game. I tried to install a mod that turned everything 40k, but when I loaded into a brand new game, I had a whole bunch of planets, and every single one of them was starving. So that seems pretty lore accurate, actually.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, that's probably right. I haven't played much of Stellaris. It's one of those games that I'll eventually touch, but I just don't have the time.
I like micromanaging things, even if I can't micromanage my own life, so...
that's fair, if that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I like city builders and stuff like that.
It's a mood.
It is the mood.
Yeah.
What about you, Syndical? What do you do when you're not playing Legions?
Looking for work, because I just got out of a 1-year contract in an institution here in my country that deals with nuclear research. Then I read some books. Overlord, some manga, watch cartoon.
Overlord is a good one. I've read that.
Yeah, I love it. I love the world building. Actually, when before I got into Warhammer 40k, I was just like reading Overlord, then check that there are some similarities between Ainz Ulgon and the Emperor.
Yeah, just good old Grimdark for the sake of Grimdark.
Yeah, it's Grimdark too. Love it.
Yeah, it's a good read. I need to catch up to it because I've only gone as far as the actual anime has gone, so I need to actually read more.
Yeah. Read the light novel.
More seasons. I'll have to
read the light novel. Yeah. Season 4 on the way.
Yeah, I'm happy for that. For those not anime watchers at home, or those who are anime watchers rather, I do recommend it. It's good old grim dark fun.
Overlord. Actually, I suggest read the light novel.
Yeah, do both. Do both.
Watch the anime, then read the light novel, because the light novel expands upon the anime and the world building itself. Yeah.
That's
awesome. Well, hey guys, this has been a lot of fun, but I actually have a couple other things I want to get done before I have to.
That's all good, man.
Yeah,
we're wrapping.
Yeah,
but
we're wrapping.
This has been super fun, Scuff. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Is there anything you would like to plug before you go?
No, not really. I'm not that interesting. I'll see you guys on Legions. I'll happily come back another time if you'll have me. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for being it.
I appreciate it very much. You guys take care and have a great night.
Yep, you too.
All right. Then I guess we'll wrap up here shortly.
Take
care, buddy. I'll do my normal plugs. I want to plug Doran Stash. He's a great artist. He made my profile picture. It's an adorable little crab. That's Drew Lee. That's at Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. He does art. He does commissions. They're adorable. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Is there anything you would like to plug, Syndical?
Oh, actually nothing. I'm really an uninteresting person, and I apologize if my English is not that on par.
No, your English is perfect. It works.
Oh, thank you. And I think I just want to thank you, Alex. I just want to thank you, Scott, for bringing me here to this podcast.
You heard me,
And-
it's Axel.
Axel, oh yeah, I read your name. Sorry, Axel.
Ooh,
So
you
thank you,
heard me.
Axel. Thank you, Scott, for bringing me here in this podcast, and love you guys. Hope
It's
to see you
great
again
having
in
you.
the next episode. See you in the game itself.
Well,
All right,
thank
have
you.
fun.
Mhm.
All right.
All right.
I guess that's it. I
That's
guess that's
it.
from us.
I'm going to plug deck slots, but we'll really plug a bunch of stuff next week, I guess.
Oh yeah, and for those listening now, in the future, Mr. Everguild's coming. He's coming quick. He's going to be here again.
He'll be back. The Mr. Everguild is coming hot and heavy.
Coming down. You can't stop him.
So look forward to that episode. It's going to be in a couple weeks. We're going to do another Everguild Q&A with devs. And yeah, that's it for me too. So thanks to the guys who made it out tonight, and hopefully we covered some of the Death Guard love there. I think we got a little bit more lore than we got game-wise, but again,
That's fine enough.
I'm not going to say that they're not one-sided, but they're very linear, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. All right, well,
That's all right.
that's it for me.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
It ends here.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
I can't help but appreciate your talents.
It was inspiring.
I need some wood.